1 out.
So close.
1 out.
Yeah.
1 out away from history. I'm still so sad.
I'm telling you, that's the kind of loss that
This
you wake
close.
up, like as a fan, right?
Right.
You wake up, you still feel sick.
Matt.
I can't imagine, like as a player,
Or
it would
coach.
probably take me months to not just feel sick to my stomach. Like that's as close as you can get.
As close as you can get. I mean,
We're talking about Liberty softball, by the way.
Yes,
In case you've been
I'm
living
sorry.
in, in case you've
I'm
been
sorry.
living in a cave and you're just figuring this out.
you know, when you look at that first game, let's go
Yeah.
back to that of the doubleheader. You
Against
know,
Georgia, yeah.
had to beat Liberty twice for Liberty to advance, or one of them to advance to the Super Regional. We were worried about how Liberty was going to turn the page after being beat by Georgia.
Yeah.
What was it, 14-5? It was good that Liberty picked up some of those runs. I don't care
You
how
felt like,
you score.
right, a little confidence at the plate.
Getting something on the board could really help going into game 2 for the Super Regional. It was tight. It was, low scoring game.
If you had told me, like, there's no way in the world I would have thought after that first game on Sunday against Georgia that there would be a 3-2 game in the second one. Like, by that point, you've seen all the pitchers. Like, they've all seen everything they have to offer.
Like
there's no secrets anymore.
Your hand,
like, everybody knows everybody. This is the third game between these two teams.
Right.
That was stunning that it was so low scoring. And honestly, like, Alina Escobar was 1 out away from maybe the greatest athletic performance in Liberty history. Like, you think about what she did in that game. If she beats Georgia 2-1 to get to the Super, I don't know of another, like, with what was on the line, another performance that would have matched her. She struck out 7 of the first 8 hitters she faced. Like, that was insane.
And then the huge strikeout to get double-digit strikeouts against their number one hitter when there was a runner on, I believe, at that time. So, and the game is on the line. I think it was the 6th or 7th.
Here's how
it was the 6th.
Slim, but the line was between winning and losing. You think back to a couple of weeks before, on the road to LSU, Escobar pitching that game, hanging on for dear life at the end. Hard comebacker, bang, she snags it.
Yep.
Throws the first, game over. Like 6 inches, she does the same thing there against Georgia, game over. Liberty celebrating, but it's just that close, gets up the middle, and then credit Georgia too, like that next hitter did not waste any time.
Well, that and like defensively what they were able to do in the top of the 7th, like we'll break it all down, okay? We're gonna talk about that if you're still sobbing like we are.
Yeah, we'll also get to
Matt will like break your heart even more.
I have my
so you're just gonna leave this podcast.
This is how I cope with things.
With an NIL deal with the the Kleenex box, sponsorship.
I start thinking about what were the other Liberty losses that made me feel this way, and I have a couple of them, and it will give you some time, the listeners, to maybe think of a few of your own. But
right, we'll also have an interview that we recently did with new volleyball head coach Nolan Albrecht.
Yeah, great.
Get to know him a little bit more.
Great.
He's really fun. We'll also talk about Liberty baseball heading into the CUSA tournament down there in Ruston, Louisiana.
Love Shack.
Love Shack, baby. So we'll talk a little bit about that matchup and what the bracket will look like for the Flames coming off of another series sweep to end the regular season against La Tech. So we'll talk about that in just a moment. But this softball, you know what? You know the salt in the wound, to really make this
I know where you're going.
even worse is who is Georgia playing in the Super Regional? UCLA. Like, what better storyline?
Yeah.
Come on, NCAA softball.
Where she's an all-time legend, going back there again. We knocked them out. A year ago.
Yep.
It would have been, gosh, it would have been beautiful.
It's really, really frustrating.
What a bummer.
But your other takeaways from this game, we mentioned in the top of the 7th, those huge plays from that Georgia defense.
The shortstop is the leadoff hitter in that inning, robbed Savannah Jesse, diving deep in the hole to rob a line drive. So she would have been on, right? And then the next hitter up with Reagan Barrett, ripped one to left. Left fielder goes back, like jumps, reaches back, incredible play. Like those two fall, which 9 times out of 10, they probably do. There's another run. You give yourself a little bit more cushion there. You got that insurance run. Even if just the one off the bat of Barrett gets over. She's got a double, maybe a triple, and you probably get her in that inning. But you don't, and that's that slim margin we talk about. And the other big play that was costly came in the 6th inning, and that was Georgia's first run, where you had Mary Claire Wilson make the catch. It looked like there was a little miscommunication between her and KK Madry. Madry ducks out at the last second. Mary Claire caught it, and then when she went to throw it, dropped it, and that allowed the runner from second to come all the way around and score. You give good teams, and really good teams like Georgia is, any edge, like you give them a freebie like that.
Any bit of hope, really.
Right. You're just like, oh, man, that you don't feel great about it. And, yeah, they have that hope, and then they're thinking, you go into that last inning saying, well, we're just one swing away from tying this thing.
Right.
That's such a different spot to be in than if it's still 2-0. So that was really costly as well. But, man, like, it just –
I still hasn't set in yet, so I can't imagine, like, being the girls and –
No, I don't –
in that dugout and just like the shock, almost the shock value.
Right.
But before we get to the end of this game, you know, the huge catches by Georgia defense.
Yeah.
But what about KK Madry? I mean, she comes in clutch. Again, once she made that catch, well, first of all, I didn't think she was going to make, well, how do you not think she doesn't make these kind of catches because she's been doing it all season?
You expect anything hit out there, her to end up with it somehow.
It won't drop. But after she made that catch, we were kind of texting, like, we thought it was over.
I thought it was over. I thought when she made that, and I think that was for the first out in the inning.
I think so, yeah.
I was like, okay, it's meant to be. You always start playing that game.
I think it might have been the second.
Like, okay, like, that's it. Like,
yeah.
Like, how do you lose now? Like, after you make a play like that, unfortunately, you know, it still went that way. But
and then, like, the hit up the middle, it just happened so fast. Like, it's almost like, and I'm not a softball coach. Like, I don't know. It's easier said than done, right? Do you go out there after that tying run comes in and kind of give your team a little breather and pep talk? Because then it was just like, boom, the game was over before you could even blink. But there's still so many positives that you can take from this season, and never, ever before been so close to into a Super Regional.
And I want to talk about one positive, and that was the play of Brooke Roberts in the postseason. We mentioned it last week, but she was hitting 183 at the end of the regular season. And then she goes and she's the MVP of the Conference USA Championship. Then she goes 5 for 11 with 2 home runs and 5 RBIs in the NCAA Regional. She hit 3 home runs in 47 regular season games. She hit 3 home runs in 9 postseason games. And that's more the player that we expected. She was a huge power player or power hitter in JUCO. But I was trying to think of, like, what's a comparison to someone who did this in the regular season, and then just I was thinking like the classic, like Robert Ory, right? Big Shot Bob back in the days, that like everyone knew, like, come playoff time,
he was on.
He's going to go to a completely different level, and that's what she did. So unbelievable performance by her. It changed the lineup, it changed this team, and as you look forward. Now, you have to say this these days.
I know.
Assuming everyone comes back. We're in the age where every player's a free agent every year. So assuming everyone comes back that you expect, Rachel Root being at the top of that list, you have Escobar back for another year, having now pitched on this stage. Yoder, now a year, not a freshman anymore, a sophomore, more games under her belt. Same with Savannah Jessie behind the plate. She'll be a sophomore. You bring back so much, not to mention Dot has done a really good job in the portal in the past of piecing things together. If you're able to get 1 or 2 more bats in there with what they bring back, which is the majority of this team, like, they could be really, really good again next year. And if I'm Dot, right? If I'm a coach, every year teams will do like some sort of motto, right? That they're like, this is what the motto is for this year. This is it. If I'm Dot Richardson, that first team meeting, when everybody comes back, I break out the box of T-shirts, Liberty Softball, on the back, the motto for next year, leave no doubt. Leave no doubt. From game 1 to Oklahoma City, like, you own it. Like, it is, like, you cannot, no room for error. You have the team to do it. You're going to play another schedule that's going to prepare you. You're going to face the top teams in the country. Now it's not like, oh, we're easing our way in. Oh, we're kind of getting beat up early.
By,
no,
like, in a regional,
you got the team. If you bring everybody back, like, this is it. Like we're going to take
I
this
got
thing.
chills.
We're going to be a top 25
We're
team.
kicking Joe Yock out.
We're going to win the conference again. And this time we're not going to be denied. They will have the group. They'll have the experience. They'll have the pieces there. Like, this is it.
And now for your pregame speech, Matt Warner.
Like this
Forget
is it.
Joe Yock and get.
Like they've been knocking on that super regional door.
I
It's been getting
know.
louder and louder
I thought the door
and louder.
was gonna open.
They kick it down next year. You
They
kick
kick
it
it
down,
down.
you find a way to get in. And like we've said over and over, it's more difficult to win a region than it is to win a super regional. You get to that super regional, all it takes is a break here or there, and you're in the College World Series. Like, you just got to take 2 out of 3. Like, you're that close. You're that close. Next year, kick the door down.
You just hope that this group, and they seem like they could be that type of group that looks at each other and says, hey, if you don't go, I won't, like, let's
Right.
stick together because we can do this. We know that we can do this because we were right there.
Yeah.
Add a couple more pieces and
one last thing on that.
only bit.
You
big
were
things
right
to come.
there when you lost your best starting pitcher from a year ago. You lost one of your great players probably in program history and starting catcher.
Mhm.
And yet you reload, Dot shuffles things around, gets the
Right.
pieces in place, and you came back even better.
It's almost like she knows what she's doing.
It's almost like she's a legend. in the game.
Okay, so if that didn't
Yeah.
just make you sob and curl up on the
Yeah.
bathroom floor, Matt is going to break your heart even more. What other games in Liberty history, or maybe during your time here, I think
During
it
my
is,
time.
during your time here that made you feel this same sorrow?
Yeah, and I would be interested. Was it flamecentral@liberty.edu?
Let's hear yours.
Send us yours, because I'm sure I'm
From before.
I'm sure I'm
Matt's
forgetting
day.
some probably over the last 10 years that I've been here, but these were the two that jumped out to
Oh
me.
boy.
Men's basketball, Kennesaw State, 2 seasons ago, championship game.
Oh yes.
Isaiah Warfield foul with 1 second left or whatever it was of a tie game. You're that close to making an NCAA tournament. That one just felt so deflating. And then the other one happened to also be men's basketball, and that was in 2018. Liberty, conference championship game, Big South championship. You lose on a buzzer beater to Radford and Carleek Jones. That was, you felt like right there. Here it is. They're going to break through. Like, I remember like seeing assistant coaches sobbing in the hallway after this game. It was so emotional. The other thing about all 3 of these, those 2 games in the softball, all of them happened on the other team's home field or home court.
Oh.
So you had that on top of it, where everyone in the building is going nuts.
There's like confetti falling.
Except
and
for
you're-
like the 20 Liberty people, whatever, like players and coaches that just have to sit there and watch everyone else celebrate. But those were 3 that really jumped out to me as being like, oh man, it was just right
I
there.
was at that Kennesaw State game, and it was just deflating.
Yeah.
Deflating feeling. And then we drove 7.5 hours
That's the other
back
thing
to
I thought about,
Lynchburg. That
too.
was really, really upsetting.
We talked about last week how softball got stranded in El Paso, but you're like,
Yeah.
hey, at least they won. Imagine what it'd be like if they lost. Well, now you have that long drive, and it feels about twice as long after a game like that.
I'm still fired up for this Lady Flame team.
No
like
doubt.
what they're doing and how they represent this university and its
No doubt.
mission is just top notch. So congratulations on an incredible
And that's the
season.
thing, right? And you saw them praying after the game or whatever.
Mhm.
You say it, it's easy to say, harder to do. But if you're gonna give God the glory when you're winning titles,
Right.
you got to do the same when you lose. And I
So
know
true.
Dot Richardson is that way. I know she's preaching that to her team as well. And so even in a loss, you, in some ways, I remember an old coach telling us, I can't remember which coach it was over the years, that said he preached to his players. I think it was Bill Bell, the legendary soccer coach, the late great Bill Bell, who told his team, like, when you lose, I don't want to see you over here sulking while this other team is walking away not knowing Jesus.
Yeah.
This is your chance. You lose, you get out there, because
So
it's even
true.
more impactful showing your faith in a tough moment like that. And so, again, that's part of the reason I think so many people are proud of this team, this coaching staff, and so many of the coaches here at Liberty, because that's the way they live.
And we hear it all the time when Dot Richardson joins us on the
Right.
podcast. Like, by the way, this is a Flame Central podcast powered by Alcova
That's
Mortgage.
right.
Joe's going to be really
Pay the
upset.
bills,
It took
yeah.
me 20 minutes to get to that. But, Dot Richardson makes it clear for her players and like what their identity is, not
Yeah.
on that ball field, and it lies in Jesus. So we have a very, uplifting heart
Right,
going
right.
from knowing that and how she's led this program only great things or better things to come for it. So, all right, do we want to get to this interview with Nolan Albrecht
Let's
and
do
then
that.
go to
We'll hit baseball after that.
Okay, great conversation. Here's Nolan Albrecht. We are now joined on the Flame Central podcast, powered by Alcova Mortgage,
right.
newly elevated volleyball head
Out of
coach.
nowhere.
Out of nowhere.
Here
Hey,
he comes.
come to Lynchburg last month. This month, you are the new head volleyball coach, Nolan Albrecht. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to meet you
Or
all.
pre-World War I, it was Nolan Albrecht.
Yes, right.
As we learned before.
Yes.
Right.
That's good. Now we're helping
Yeah.
Flames fans know
Yes,
not to
yes.
mispronounce your name.
History's
Albright.
important.
Yeah.
We're going Albright. All right.
All right,
That's what we do.
all right.
Oh, that's
I
a
like
t-shirt.
that. I like that.
That's a t-shirt.
That-
Work on that, Warren.
We'll work that into the broadcast.
Yeah.
For sure.
So, what a whirlwind the last month has been for you. How are you feeling? How have you been, relying on the Lord through this entire process, and kind of what's going on in your mind?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the first thing is just like I have fallen in love with the campus and the team and just with everything that Lynchburg brings. I mean, being nestled in between two mountains and just this like little, I call it, if this is like the Hidden Valley like ranch in this area, it's this nice chicken like strip of a campus right here. If we're being informal, I was told it was informal.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but
Absolutely.
Matt likes Hidden Valley Ranch dressing a lot.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
That's really
I certainly do.
and that's what I think this place is. But anyway, I've fallen in love with all of that, and so I think it's just a little easier for me to feel comfortable here. Like I know it's only been a month and a few weeks, but this place represents so much of what I want to live my life as, which is a champion for Christ. And like that hasn't always been the case in my life, but I think after playing pro volleyball the last 3 years, I've seen the depths of where it can go playing pro and like where that can lead people. And then I've also seen like how awesome you can make it, and you can play at the highest level, and you can love the Lord, and the Lord can come first. And like I've seen it with a few really good examples. I mean, one is Avery Drost, who's a very good volleyball player, and every time he'd see me, he'd stop, and he didn't really know who I was, and he'd just look me in the eyes and be like, Nolan, how are you? Like, how are you doing? And like we shared breakfast together, and he's playing with Olympians, and I'm like, wow, I can tell this man like knows what is valuable, and he's not just chasing the dream. Like he's already got the dream, and the dream is like salvation. So I think all of that here is just amazing to be around and be reminded of all the time. I'm really excited for the fall. I'm really excited to get the girls on the court and see what we can do in conference and non-conference. But yeah, I'm getting a little less sleep than what I got before. But
Who needs that? You're young. You're fine.
I'm fine.
I got more sleep than
got
Dot
some
Richardson
coffee here.
got last week.
Yeah.
So take me into kind of your mindset, because you get here as an assistant, so you're probably like, okay, I can kind of ease my way in a little bit, learn the ropes, and then suddenly, hey, here are the keys to the car, right? In less than a month. Like, what are the first tasks that you feel like when you know this is my program now? What are you looking to do?
Yeah, I think it goes back to when I was hired. I thought about it as my program. And I want every girl on the team to think about it as her program. I want every coach, I want the athletic trainer, I want this whole school to think about this team as our program, my program, right? So that's my approach when I get hired as an assistant, is like, hey, give me all the info. I'm asking every coach, I'm asking everyone involved, how does this normally happen? Like, why do we do it like this? Where did this come from? Like, so much to the point where I was like, I'm sorry I'm asking so many questions, but like, this is the way I need to do it. And they were like, no, keep asking. And so that was the first thing, is I've thought about this as my program from April 1st, right? So I think elevating to the head coach, there's obviously more responsibility. I have the big red button to push to make things start and make things stop. And I've had that before. I was a head coach for 4.5 years of my alma mater on the men's side. And so I understand what that's like to a certain extent. I just think that the first thing I did was get with the current team and sort of start that new foundation process. I mean, there's never any growth without breaking ground a little bit, and sometimes that breaking ground hurts. And I think, there was a lot of love for the previous staff and all that stuff, and I understand that, and like I was a part of that staff. But I think as we move forward into the future, there can be some new growth that comes out of this time, and I think that's my goal, is to sort of like sow a good vision of what we're going to be doing. We're not changing everything. We're just sharpening a little bit more. And I think I had a conversation with Jake Berry, the associate head soccer coach, and we had chatted for like 3 hours about whether the will of God sometimes can happen to your life and it just means bad for you. Like in the case of Job, his argument was like, nobody benefited out of that, or Job didn't benefit out of that. Like his wife dying, like how did that help his wife? And I was like, I think God does all things for good. Like he has promised that he has plans for our salvation, plans for goodness, right? And I was arguing that till I was blue in the face, and then boom, like this big event happens, and then we're changing into this new life, and I'm like, wow, okay, well, I guess I have to like, I have to like, there's nothing that like I have to follow through with what I said, and so I fell asleep that night praying like, Lord, don't let me ask you why as much. Like I can ask the people around me the why and like for help and all this stuff, but just give me the how and the when and the what, please. Like, and I'll follow your will. And like, let that be my lifestyle. Like, let that be my prayer. And that's kind of how I've been trying to go about it. I know it sounds amazing. It's not always amazing. It's not always good, but I have this enthusiasm because I think that there's great stuff happening. And I think I'm around a team that really thinks great stuff is happening and we can win a lot of games. So like, I love winning. I love the Lord. I have a heart for college kids and like student athletes and like, so that's where my enthusiasm comes from. And that's kind of my first step was to get with the team and then get with our recruits.
What do you see with this team and what is going to be different now that you're at the helm with, will your style of play change at all? And what do you see this team being?
Yeah, I see this team being really good on the pins. So both of our outside hitters, our returners, they're going to be like fifth-year seniors. They transferred in. We have a transfer from James Madison on the right side, really good. I just actually had coffee with her. She's driving through. She started her grad school today, so she's going to be a great right side hitter. We also have the Defensive Player of the Year coming back in the middle, Madison Blaine, she's great on offense and defense. And then we have Charlie as a setter who's just like the brightest joy. Like she's so fun to be around. Like right away on my interview, she was cracking jokes with me and I could tell like, okay, you're definitely some sort of ringleader out here. And she is. Like she's a ringleader of the team. And even though she's going to be a sophomore, I'm really excited to see how she can just like set it and forget it. I think you're going to see a lot.
Set it and forget it. That's a second shirt,
Ron
that we have.
Ron Papil.
Set it and forget it. Yeah.
Set it.
George Foreman girl.
George Foreman. Is that what what that's from?
I think it was even predated that. I do remember it was like a microwave oven or something.
Yeah,
it was like Ron
set it
Papil,
and
set
forget
it and forget it.
No way.
Yeah. Like the
It's too
crowd
old
would
for you
like,
guys.
he'd say like, set it
Oh, I had
and
an easy
forget
bake
it. It's like an
oven.
infomercial.
It's an infomercial.
Yeah.
Set it and forget it.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I know Flex Seal, like wham.
Yeah.
I know that one, but like
Pre-flex seal.
pre-Flex Seal. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
learning things.
Yeah,
I need a copy.
Yeah,
no
I'm pretty sure
copyright.
somebody-
Like, I don't.
yeah.
We'll send it to you.
Yeah.
Nothing the
But-
Google machine can't look up.
But I think sometimes with high performing athletes, it's tough to like let it go.
Yeah.
And as a passer, it's a very passive skill. Like you're seeing the ball come to you, you have to react to it and like allow the ball to dance with you a little bit. As a setter, you are like the door hinge of the offense, right? The door slamming shut, that's that spike. The door opening, that's the pass that allows it. But the hinge of the door is the setter. And you only notice a hinge when it's squeaky. You only notice a hinge when it's broken.
I got one broken at the house right now.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I feel like I wake up everybody around me when I just like get up and open the door. But I think that's where that like, it's not glamorous, but when you have a good offense, that setter is almost not noticed because it goes from pass, boom, to the attack, and it's like it's exactly what should have happened, right? So it's a thankless job using the boxer. If this is George Foreman, I know Muhammad Ali.
Right.
Muhammad Ali said, "I'm gonna show you how great I am."
Yeah.
The best setters look at their hitters and they go, "I'm gonna show you how great you are."
That's so cool. Wow.
That's what the
so-
best setter does.
Yeah.
So.
You played for
Do
4
you
years.
say? I like to personally say I play volleyball as a spiker because of my outstanding vertical jump.
Right.
Is as it's getting ready, it starts low and it goes set me, set me, set me, set me.
Yeah.
Is that what you have the girls do for you?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
They
Good.
should.
Good. Yeah.
Joe,
You gotta talk.
actually,
Set me,
So
set me.
Lady Dilfer,
I do wanna say
will
this.
never come back on
Yeah,
this
that's
show.
right. I do that
at
to
one
her.
point in the not so distant past, Joe did come speak with the volleyball team
I
before a
did.
match.
Okay.
I'll
Before
say
the tournament match.
it didn't
Didn't
go
fare well.
well.
Okay.
So you may just want to steer clear of that.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
word of advice
Just-
here
just-
early on.
Just mark it down.
Steer clear.
Don't let
Yeah.
Joe do the
It
pregame
is not
speech.
good.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
is,
yeah.
I think by your saying spiker.
Yeah,
that
right.
kinda
He
shows-
said all he needed to about
As soon
his
as you said spiker,
volleyball
I was
acumen.
like, all
yeah.
right, cool
Okay.
deal.
Yeah. Just file that one away. Yeah.
No idea.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So you were a 4-year captain. You led the nation in kills.
Yeah.
Must have been a spiker.
Yeah, no, he said, set me.
Yeah.
But when did you know, and then you went on to play professional, but when did you know you wanted to get in the coaching?
When I was about 17 or 18, actually.
Okay.
I started volunteering at the high school when I was 16 with the women's team. And then when I was 17, I started coaching camps all around the country. I played for Sports Performance Volleyball Club, which they have a very, very big camp system throughout the country. So I traveled when I was 17 to Oregon and Michigan and Florida, and I was in Texas. I was coaching volleyball camps, and some of the girls were older than me. So I learned how to represent a company and be professional at a young age, but also how to run a drill, how to adjust, how to speak with someone that you're not over them, you're working with them. And so that was kind of my foundation. Then when I played college basketball for a year, my freshman year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Where at?
Franciscan University.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Wow.
played a year there, and my coach had this limitless passion for our team, and we were terrible. We went 0-24.
Whoa.
Whoa, so that's why you went from basketball.
And then I dipped out.
Switched
No,
it up.
but it was, I left my mark. But
Yeah.
it was the first year, so they had moved from
Yeah.
club to an NCAA team. So it was the first year they had an NCAA team there. So a lot of these kids didn't even play high school basketball. So so that was a little tough.
Sounds like a long year, yeah.
Yeah, so I personally had a great year statistically. However, we didn't win. And this coach showed up every single morning and would show up as if we were the best team in the conference. And I'm looking at him, I'm going, Coach, did you watch our
Did you
last
see
game?
what I see?
We
Yeah.
lost by
Yeah.
30.
Yeah.
We can't box out. We can't make, even if we get fouled, we're not making the free throw.
Yeah.
How can you have this much hope and this much identity in working hard and training and getting better every single day? I thought he was crazy.
So cool.
So he inspired you.
He inspired me, exactly. And then I had to tell him I was leaving. But and that was hard. I think it was nice because I was switching back to the sport that I was better at, which was volleyball. But and he ended up being very successful. He ended up taking that program, and in 3 years they were winning. And then he took a better job down at Ave Maria University in Florida and became the athletic director. And so that type of enthusiasm doesn't have to be fake. That can be a real thing. And I think we have this culture of when somebody's showing this, it's for the camera.
Yeah.
And I don't think that needs to be the case. I think that if you truly are inspired, it may not be as loud, I may not be as active. In 10 years from now, I may not still have this type of vibe. However, I hope to still convey the same amount of enthusiasm for winning and for the Lord and for good mentorship in all those ways. So that's my goal, and I keep that as my hope. So
Last question for me. What's the biggest difference in coaching on the men's side and the women's side?
yeah, that's a good question, and it's one that needs to be approached with some, appropriate PR. But I think when you're coaching on the men's side, it's very much more about the block and setting up where the block is, because the side out percentage on the men's side is about 15% higher. So your chance of scoring when you're serving is a lot lower on the men's side.
Okay.
So that allows you to serve more aggressively, because if you miss your serve, there was still only a 20% chance you would score if you made your serve. You make your best serve, you still only have maybe a 30% chance of scoring. Wow. So on the women's side, it's almost half. So if you make your serve, you have a 40 to 45% chance of scoring. So the serve level is a little different. I also think that our back row attacking we use the back row attack a lot more on the men's side. And then there's less subs. So you don't have the ability to be so specified on the men's side. Whereas on the women's side, we can be very specific with you are a front row right side player. Yeah. And we are working on blocking and hitting, and that's pretty much it, right? On the men's side, that right side player has to play all the way around. You can't sub them out. Okay. So it's the international way. Women's volleyball doesn't do international type subs. So that's kind of the big thing. I'll specify a lot more. We're gonna make a lot more serves, and our offense it's flowing towards the back row, but we're still going to use tempo, overloading, offsetting, one-on-ones, all that kind of stuff on the offense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
as the
focus-
spiker.
Yeah, we're gonna overload.
As a former
I mean, we're going to overload and
Yeah.
offset this thing, and then we'll get in that pack line
Yeah.
defense and call it a day.
Yeah.
Right.
Just give me a call after our
Yes.
first game and
Okay.
let me know what we need to do.
CUSA Championship pregame speech. We got former spiker.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You need to get, with all those percentage you're giving, Emily is an expert in volleyball analytics, so you may want to bring her on staff.
Hidden Valley Ranch,
stuff.
Valley
Liberty
Ranch.
University.
Let's go. Let's
Yeah.
go.
Gotta love it.
Awesome. Well, we are so happy that you are here on the mountain and leading this group. You sound like a perfect fit for the Lady Flames volleyball team. So congratulations. And Joe wants you.
It's something we do with all of our guests.
guys gotta do the
Okay.
thing.
Okay.
So you will hold this mug. You'll
That's
look at
your
this
camera.
camera into the heart of America.
Yeah, Heart of America.
And you will say, the Flame Central podcast,
Yeah.
powered by Alcova Mortgage.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
easy.
I didn't check with my agent before this.
Right. Yeah. As long as you don't have any other
We'll give
mortgage
you-
sponsorship
Flame
deals.
Central
Yeah.
podcast.
Just
Okay.
This is you're watching the
Yeah,
Flame
there we go.
Central
You're watching. That's
podcast.
good.
Okay, first take, Coach.
You're watching the Flame Central podcast, powered by Alcova Mortgage.
Oh,
Wow! I thought he was going to give a wink at the end of that.
Listen,
Okay.
I wasn't sure about you at first, but now I am all
Yeah,
in.
we might replace you on the podcast.
I am all
See
in.
ya.
Yeah.
My title is acting head coach. So
Hey,
technically,
acting.
I am the
you
acting
see that?
head
That's
coach.
beautiful. That's
Oh my gosh.
acting. Yeah.
Nolan Albrecht, your life is about to change. Not
Yeah.
only because of the acting head coach thing, but once you're on the Flame Central podcast,
Yeah, it's
people
gonna
will
get-
start recognizing you
So
around
it's
It's
town.
called
about
us
that.
kingmakers.
Okay.
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 So,
I gotta
It's-
make my phone number private.
right.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay,
You
all
know
that
it.
stuff.
You
I
already
got
know.
that.
You
Yeah.
already know.
When Matt Warner walks the streets, he pretty much, the children that walk by, beat it, kid, no autographs. That's pretty much,
yeah,
that's pretty much how he has to roll. That's how bad
it's
it
my
gets.
burden. Yeah, it's my burden. That's fine. Yeah.
And then I'm yelling at my dog on the trails, and people are like, I know that obnoxious voice.
Yeah.
Is that Emily Austin from the Flame Central podcast? That's me. Well, thank you so much for
Thanks,
your
Coach.
time.
Yeah.
Good luck. Let us know how we can help out in any way. Can't wait to see you guys in action in the fall.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for having me, y'all.
I'm kind of fired up about this
I am
because, and it feels like on social, because whatever happens on the internet's
Right.
true,
It's
right?
true.
And
Absolutely.
there is some legit hype about having him leading this program.
Well, he's played at an incredibly high level himself.
hmm
He had a sister. We didn't get into that in our interview, but his sister's one of the great players ever. She was an All-American at national champion at Nebraska. He comes from volleyball, it's in his blood, right? He's connected, and just the energy that he brings. I know he in another interview I did with him, he had a line that said, he goes, "You can't take donkeys to the Kentucky Derby and expect to win." And that's not
What a
talking.
great line.
That's not talking about his current team. He's talking about the recruiting trail.
Right.
And he's on fire to get out there and find some girls. He has the title acting head coach. He's not looking at it that way. He's looking at it this is my program now, and we're gonna get things rolling. He's an exciting guy and easy to root for, and I'm excited for this fall to see what he can do. How are those girls not going
What
to buy
an opportunity, but what a whirlwind. I mean,
Right.
he's been here not even 2 months.
Yeah.
Hey, you're the new head coach.
Here's your program. Find a
Okay.
staff. Let's go.
Let's go.
If anybody can do it, I think he's probably the guy.
I know. It's exciting stuff. And we'll get to know him a little bit more throughout the summer and those practices later in July. So be on the lookout for that. Remember, flamecentral@liberty.edu to be a part of the show. Send in questions,
Mailbag.
comments.
We need more mailbag questions.
We need
Let
some
us
more
know.
mailbag questions to get us through the summer. Also, we're going to be talking to some alumni, Darius McGee, Scotty James, and we're going to try to get Caleb Holmesley. So if you have any questions or have any suggestions for alumni that you want to catch up with, keep us posted on that. flamecentral@liberty.edu. Okay, we're going to wrap up with baseball. The CUSA Championship starts in Ruston, Louisiana on Wednesday. First up for the Flames is Sam Houston, which I'm not saying that they lost these 3 games this past weekend to La Tech because they just didn't care. But, they were obviously trying to get on a positive note going into the tournament, but the seeding wouldn't have mattered. They would have played Sam Houston as the 4 or as the 5. So none of that mattered. But one thing you can take away from that last series, this team still fights to the end.
Yeah. And I'm glad you said that because everything they did in this series was to set themselves up, hopefully, for success.
Right.
You saw Cole Hertzler in the first game of the series against La Tech. They
Only
took
one.
him out after 5 innings
Right.
because they had a 90-pitch limit on him. Like, that game could have been different had he remained. He came out, they immediately, La Tech scored a couple runs.
Right.
Like, that game could have been different. But you want him ready for this game, the opener, Wednesday night. It's scheduled to go off at 8:30 Eastern time. It's not.
What?
It's going to be like 9:30. It's going to be like 10.
Oh my
there's
gosh,
like
Mike.
there's like 3 games before Liberty. Like, there's no way in the world that game starts it. So
You are kidding
yeah, we're staying up
me.
late on Wednesday night, but like, so just plan on that. But you want him ready for that.
I might just take a nap from 6 to 9, you know. And
If
then
I see your
stay
office door
up.
closed and your light off during the day, I'll assume you're just prepping
Little
for the baseball game that night.
power nap.
But Liberty swept Sam Houston earlier this year. That was a huge series for Liberty. That was in late March. But they're playing good ball, and they feature one of the best players, maybe the best player in the conference, Walter Yannick. He is probably going to be a first-round draft pick, catcher for Sam Houston, so he's a really good player. But you feel like, man, if Hertzler is dialed in his last couple of starts, he's been really good. You got a chance. The bats, I think that was maybe one of the more disappointing parts of the La Tech series. They came alive there in the middle game late.
Yeah, it's
but-
almost always late.
But the
Like,
first 2
gotta get
games
it going a
didn't
little
swing
soon.
it that well. You need them to show up. But if you win that first game, that's huge. Double elimination. And then you would likely play Louisiana Tech, the host, in the Love Shack.
In the Love Shack.
It would be a wild environment. Like, as a player, that's what you want to experience.
Right.
You want to experience that. So I hope they get the chance. I hope Hertzler's dialed in and they can get that first win. And then who knows? Then all you need is that offense to get hot a little bit. You might be able to.
It's
score
not
a little
even just
upset.
getting hot, but it's like piecing it together at the right times. I
Yeah.
can't even, I don't know the numbers, but like it just felt like, oh, straining bases loaded,
It was.
bases loaded, bases, oh,
It
2
was.
men left on, 2 men, and it's just like you got to string those hits
That
together
first
at the
game
right time.
Left a lot of guys at third. You
Gosh.
get guys at third, less than 2 outs, not able to get them in. Second game, they should have won it in the ninth, bottom of the ninth. When they came back, it was set
Right.
up. They could have won. They didn't.
It's like 8-2 in the in the eighth
Going into
or
the
something.
eighth,
Yeah.
So
So,
you
the
got
fight is there.
Yeah, we've been saying that all year,
I know.
right? And at some point, it's like what they say, like, you are what your record says you are. That's true. But you do know there's enough talent there where if somehow things all came together, Liberty could make some noise in this tournament. But again, it comes down to game number 1. They don't have the depth to drop down, I think, into that loser's bracket right away, not the pitching depth, and work themselves back.
Okay, I'm going to pop this up on the screen around this time about what the bracket looks like. But basically, it sets up a little bit better, you were saying,
Well,
than
it's essentially
softball.
So softball was weird, and we found out more about this. Softball was a winner-take-all game strictly because of television.
yeah.
Like I guess it. So,
Western Kentucky went into that unbeaten.
right. The conference wanted to make sure it was televised on a national platform, so it was winner-take-all. This sets up. It's almost like 2 4-team tournaments, double elimination tournaments that gets you to a winner-take-all game. So there's no like Liberty had the if necessary game against Georgia.
Mhm.
You had to play it. That won't happen in the championship. That will
Yes.
happen in your side of the bracket before you get to the winner-take-all championship.
Right.
So a little bit different there, but it all leads up to that. And I think it'll be a great environment down there at Louisiana Tech.
It should be fun. And there's a chance DBU and La Tech get an at-large bid. So let's have Liberty just win this sucker, and then we'll have 3 Conference USA
good to me.
teams. And
Yeah.
no, that,
Yeah, hey, we'll take it.
Maybe a little high hopes, but
One at a time.
one at a
generally.
time, one game at a time. A lot of baseball ahead for the Flames. So best of luck for them down there in Reston, Louisiana. Okay, if you missed it, Kane Kepley's feature went out last week. It's a great story about like the underdog who is now one of the best players on the Flames. And then also your feature on Matt Williams airs.
It may be out by the time you're listening to this podcast.
Yeah, so go check it out.
But yes, Matt Williams played here, then pro ball, nearly made the bigs, was in AAA, long time, 5 or 6 years pro scout, and is now back for the first year on staff with Liberty Baseball. Great guy. And we did a feature kind of about his story and coming back to LU. So, yeah, check that out.
May or may not be a Memorial Day podcast next week.
Don't count on it.
Don't count on it. I have a feeling I might be on vacation.
I'll say this. If Scott Jackson and the boys put together a special week, may have
We'll
a
be here.
podcast.
Yeah.
If not, so no pressure, coach. No pressure.
The Flame Central podcast listeners are
But-
depending on you.
Yeah, doubtful at this point.
Thanks so much for listening or watching. For Matt, I'm Emily. We'll see you back here, if not next week, the following week.
See ya.